Hello friend, welcome to my YouTube channel. So friend, today we will understand the second chapter of Tamil Nadu Board NCRT, which is consumption analysis. So friends, let's start this chapter. So what is consumption? Consumption is defined as the use of goods and service for satisfying wants. So for satisfying our want, we consume different things. For example, if we are feeling hungry, we consume food to satisfy our wants, right? Consumption is also an end of production. So for a what is the end of production? Consumption. So there are some of the characteristic of human wants. What are the characteristic of human wants? First, wants are unlimited. Wants become habits. Wants are satiable. Wants are alternative. Wants are competitive. Wants are complementary. Wants are recurring. So these are some of the characteristic of wants. Means if we talk about wants are unlimited, so human beings have unlimited amount of wants. It is not that the wants are countable, but human beings have countless wants. Wants become habit. For example, if we understand that when a man start reading newspaper in the morning, it become habit for him, right? Now, what is classification of goods? Goods are classified into three categories. In the first, necessary, comfort, and luxury. So, goods which are indispensable for human beings to exist in the world are called necessaries. So, the goods without them, if we cannot exist in the earth on the earth, that goods are called necessaries. For example, food, clothing, and shelter. Comfort goods are those goods which are not indispensable for life, but to make our life easy, convenient, and comfortable, we use those goods. For example, TV, fan, refrigerator. It is not like that we can't live without these goods, but these goods make our life more comfortable. After that, after comfort good, there comes luxury good. These are not essential but are very but are very costly. These are known as luxuries. For example, jewelry, diamond, and cars. And if people are earning higher income, it seems like comfort for them. After after that, now we will understand the law of diminishing marginal utility. So this is the law. Marshall states about this law. What he says that the additional benefit which a person derives from given increase of a stock of a thing diminishes with every increase in the stock that he has already has. So what this law says, that the additional benefit which a person receives from, suppose a person has x amount of a particular stock. Suppose the stock of that thing increases, but the additional benefits which the person derives, it will diminish with the increase in the stocks. Understand? Now, friend, now let's understand the explanation. The law of diminishing marginal utility states that if a consumer continues to consume more and more units of the same commodity, its marginal utility diminishes. This means that the more we have of thing, the less the satisfaction utility that we derive from the additional unit of it. Now let's understand it with the help of an illustration. Suppose a consumer wants to consume 7 apples one after the another. The utility from the first apple is 20, but the utility from second apple will be less than that of the first, the third less than that of the second, and so on. Finally, the utility from the fifth apple becomes zero, and the utility from the sixth apple and seventh apple are negative. This tendency is called the law of diminishing marginal utility. So what author is saying, that if suppose there are 7 apples, the utility which we got from first apple is maximum, and it will keep on diminishing at the consecutive apples. So they are stable, giving that if in the first unit of apple total utility is 20, in second unit the total utility of both apple will be 35, but of the second apple only it will be 15. So marginal utility is decreasing with the increase of the stock. So what we find, that total utility goes on increasing but at diminishing rate. On the other hand, marginal utility goes on diminishing. When marginal utility becomes zero, the total utility is maximum. So when marginal utility becomes zero, at this point total utility is maximum, right? Now, and the total and when marginal utility becomes negative, the total utility diminishes. Now, what are the criticism? Utility cannot be measured numerically because utility is subjective. So these are some of the criticisms of law. What first criticism is that utility we cannot measure it numerically. This law is based on unrealistic assumption. This law is not applicable to individual communities. Now, friend, understand what are the importance or application of this law. This law serves as the basis of other consumption laws such as law of demand, elasticity of demand, consumer surplus, and law of substitution. So, friends, this lies the basis of all other demands. So, when a person income rises, the tax rate rises because the MU of money to him falls with every increase in income. Thus, the law of DMU is the basis of progressive taxation. So, why, so suppose a person income is increasing, so according to this law, marginal utility of money will be increased. So this law justified the basis of progressive taxation, that we are taxing more to the people who are earning more, right? Fourth utility, this law faces an equitable distribution of wealth. The MU of money to the more money it is low, hence distribution of income from rich to poor is justified. So this law also give emphasis on equitable distribution of wealth, because this law says that with increase in money, marginal utility of money will decrease to the person who have more money, right? So it gives emphasis on equitable distribution of wealth. It also explains the famous diamond barter paradox. Diamond is scarce, hence its MU is high and its price is high, even though it is not very much needed. Barter is abundant, hence its MU is low and its price is low, but even though it is very much essential. So it is saying that diamond MU, why diamond MU is high, is because its price is high and it is very scarce. Now friends, now we will understand the second law, the law of equimarginal utility. This law is also called as law of substitution, law of consumer equilibrium, second law of maximum satisfaction. So what does law say? If a person has a thing which he can put to several uses, he will distribute it among these uses in such a way that has the same marginal utility in all. For it, if it had the greater marginal utility one use than another, he would gain by taking away some from of it from the second use and apply it to the first. Now, friend, let's understand this law with the help of an example. So what is saying? Suppose a consumer want to spend his limited amount income on apple and orange. So there is one consumer who has X amount of income and he want to distribute this income on apple and orange. So this law says that he is said to be in equilibrium only when he gets maximum satisfaction with his limited income. So the person will be in equilibrium when he gets maximum satisfaction with his limited income. Therefore, he will be in equilibrium when marginal utility of apple upon price of apple. Marginal utility means this equation, if it helps whether, then that person would be said to be in equilibrium. So this is the marginal utility of apple upon price of apple, or marginal utility of price of apple. This should be constant. Huh. Now this law can be illustrated with the help of table 2.2. In the view of this equilibrium, law is also called the law of consumer equilibrium. In case MU upon P is less than MU upon PO, he would transfer the money from apple to orange till it is equal. So means, if suppose one side of the equation is greater, then the money will be transferred to other side to make this constant equal. So if we understood with the table, there are six commodities, right? Total utility of apple is increasing, marginal utility of apple is decreasing, total utility of orange is decreasing, increasing, marginal utility of apple is decreasing, right? Now, friend, let's understand what is the criticism. What is the criticism of this law? In practice, utility cannot be measured. Only we felt this law cannot be applied to durable goods. So, this we cannot apply this law to the durable goods. Now, understand what is consumer surplus. This Alfred Marshall defines consumer surplus as the excess of price which a person would be willing to pay over a thing rather than go without the thing over that which he actually does pay, is the economic measure of this surplus satisfaction. This may be called the consumer surplus. Now let's understand this definition with the help of an explanation. He is saying that suppose a consumer wants to buy an apple, he is willing to pay rupees 4 rather than go without it, and the actual price of apple is 2. Hence the consumer surplus is 2. The consumer surplus is the difference between the price that consumer is willing to pay and what he actually pays. So what he is saying, that suppose a consumer wants to buy an apple and the price of apple is X rupees, right? Suppose 4 rupees, and consumer is willing to pay suppose 10 rupees for that apple. So this 6, the 6 money which is extra, that comes in this consumer surplus. So what is the definition? What a person is willing to pay minus what he actually pays. Consumer surplus is equal to total utility minus price into quantity of the commodity. Okay. So if we can say unit of commodity is 1, willingness, which he is able to will pay is 6 and actual price is 2. So consumer surplus is 4, right? Now, friends, let's understand what is the law of demand. So, as G. Harvey says, demand in economics is the desire to possess something and the willingness and ability to pay a certain price in order to possess it. So, these are some of the characteristics of demand. Demand is related to price. Demand always means demand per unit time, per day, per week. Demand is always related to market buyers and sellers. Demand is always a specific quantity which a consumer is willing to purchase. Demand function. Demand depend upon price. This means demand for a commodity is a function of price. So demand always depend upon price, and we will understand how it is depend upon price. So demand, it is saying that demand is a function of price. So the quantity demanded increase with a fall in price and diminishes with a rise in price. So what law of demand says, suppose there is one commodity, and if the price of commodity increases, then demand of that commodity will decrease, and if the price of that commodity will decrease, the demand will increase. So demand is inversely proportional to the price of the commodity. Okay. The law of demand states that people will buy more at lower price and buy less at higher price, other things remaining the same. Now, quantity demanded of a commodity expands with a fall in price and contracts with a rise in price. Law of demand states that there is an inverse relationship between the price and quantity demanded of a commodity. Slope slope downward from left to right, which indicates that when price falls, demand expands, price rise, demand contracts. So if we see in this diagram 2.4, at this one point, this point, what we can see, price is less, demand is less, but quantity is means price is high, so quantity demanded is less. And when price keeps on decreases, quantity demanded keep on increasing, right? Now, what are determinants of demands? So these are some of the things which can affect demands. What are this? First is change in taste and fashion. So if the change in taste and fashion of people changes, then demand will also change. Change in weather. We know that on winter days we demand more woolen clothes, right? Taxation and subsidy. So if fresh taxes are levied, or the existing tax rates of taxation commodity are increased, their prices go up. So if taxes are levied on a commodity, then price of a commodity will increase, and if the price of commodity will increase, the demand will decrease. And in the same case of subsidy, if the government gives subsidy, then what would happen, that price would come down and demand will increase. Changes in expectations, changes in savings, state of trade activity, advertisement, change in income. So these are some of the things which affect the demand. Now, exceptions to the law of demand. What are the exceptions to the law of demand? A fall in price bring about a contraction of demand, and rise in price result in extension of demand. So a fall in price brings about a contraction of demand, and rise in price result in extension of demand. Before the demand curve slopes upward from left to right, it is known as exceptional demand curve. So, friend, exception to law of demand is, what is the original law of demand? The law of demand means demand is inversely proportional to price, and exception to law of demand will say that demand is directly proportional to price. Means as the price increases, demand also increases. So this is the exceptional demand curve, if you can see. So what are the reasons for some of the exceptional demand curve? The given good or inferior good is an exception to the law of demand. When the price of inferior good falls, the poor will buy less, and vice versa. So suppose there is one good which is of inferior quality. So if the price of that commodity will decrease, then the demand, it is not necessary that demand will increase. The demand will also decrease because the quality is inferior. Another thing is Babylon or demonstration effect. Rich people buy certain goods because it gives social distinction or prestige. Because, for example, diamonds means, suppose price of diamond increase, it does not means that demand will decrease, because rich people buy those things because it gives them the social distinction or prestige. After this, ignorance. Consumer think that product is superior if the price is high, as such they buy more at higher price. Then a speculative effect. If the price of commodity is increasing, then the consumer will buy more of it because of the expectation that it will increase will still further. Example, stock markets. Fear of shortage. During times of emergency or war, people may expect shortage of commodity and so buy more. Now, friend, extension and contraction of demand. The change in quantity demanded for a commodity due to change in price called as extension and contraction of demand. So quantity demanded when the quantity change in quantity demanded for commodity due to change in price is called extension and contraction of demand. Now movement along demand curve. Now this is a movement along the demand curve. Shift in the demand curve. Extension and contraction of demand follow a change in price. Increase and decrease in demand takes place when price remains the same and the other factors about the demand changes. Right? So increase and decrease in demand also takes place when price also remains same, but other factors for demand changes. We have earlier seen that there are many determinants factors of the demand. Now comes elasticity of demand. The law of demand explains the direction of change in demand due to change in price. It fails to explain the rate of change in demand due to change in price. Elasticity of demand explains the rate of change in quantity demanded due to given change in price. So, what is elasticity of demand? What does it tell? It tells the rate of change in the quantity demanded with the explains the rate of change in quantity demanded due to given change in price. It is said to be elasticity of demand. So, demand for a commodity is said to be elastic when the quantity demanded increases by large amount due to little fall in price and decreases by large amount due to little rise in price. To be more scientific, elastic demand as more elastic demand. So, so we would say that any commodity has elastic demand when, with a little decrease in price, the price of that quantity demanded increases by large amount, and when little increase in price, the quantity demanded decreases by large amount. So this is the elastic demand. Now, price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand is commonly known as elasticity of demand. This is because price is the most influential factor affecting demand. Elasticity of demand measures the responsiveness of the quantity demanded to the change in the price. So what is price elasticity? It is also known as elasticity of demand, and it measures the responsiveness of the quantity demanded to the changes in the price. Now friends, let's understand what is price elasticity. It is said that elasticity of demand refers to responsiveness and sensitiveness of demand for a product to the change in price, right? So proportionate change in quantity demanded upon proportionate change in price. Income elasticity of demand, it tells the degree of responsiveness of change in demand for a product due to change in income. So with the change in income, what is the degree of change in the demand? That comes with that is known as income elasticity. Right? Proportional change in quantity demand for product and proportional change in income. For most of the good, the income elasticity of the demand is greater than 1. Income elasticity is greater than 1, indicating that with the change in income, the demand will also change, and that too in the same direction. That is, more income means more demand, right? So it is merely more than 1 means if the income of a person increase, then the demand will also increase. The cross elasticity of demand. What is cross elasticity? Percentage change in quantity demanded for commodity one commodity as a result of small change in price of another commodity. So proportional change in demand of commodity X upon proportional change in price of commodity Y. So with the change in with the change in quantity demand of one commodity with the result of small change in price. Suppose with the price change in one commodity there is change in another commodity of the quantity demanded. That comes under the cross elasticity of demand. Now, another is advertising elasticity demand. The responsiveness of the change in demand due to the change in advertising or the other promotional expenses known as advertising elasticity of demand. Now, friends, now we will understand levels or degree of price elasticity of demand. The price elasticity of demand is commonly known as elasticity of demand, which is to degree of responsiveness of demand to the change in price of the commodity. Okay. Now, first is perfectly elastic demand. So we can say here quantity demand is it increasing but price is at the constant. So what it is saying, but perfectly elastic demand is said to be perfectly elastic at slight change in the price of a commodity change and infinite change in the quantity demanded. So with the little change in price, the demand changes by infinite, in demand changes infinitely. So it is a perfectly elastic demand. What is perfectly in a inelastic demand? That when there is no change in demand for a product due to the change in price. So the graph would be particular. We can see that with the change in price, there is no change in the demand. Now, relative elastic demand. What is a relative elastic demand? The demand is relative elastic when the proportionate change in demand for a commodity is greater than the proportionate change in its price. Means the proportionate change in demand for a commodity means the quantity demanded is changing very largely as compared to the proportionate change in price. So you can see if we go from suppose from Q0 to Q1, Q0 to Q1, we can see that quantity demanded is changing fast, but P1 minus P2 is very less, right? Relative inelastic demand. What is relative inelastic demand? When the proportionate change in demand of product is less than the proportionate change in the price. Means here you can see that P1 minus P2 is greater than Q0 minus Q1. So the proportionate change in demand is less than the proportionate change in price. It is called steeply sloping, right? Then comes unitary elastic demand. If a proportionate change in price of product is same as the change in quantity demanding, it is called unitary elastic demand. So this is a rectangular hyperbola. Now there is one table given about all the elasticity what that we have understood, that when elasticity is perfectly elastic, when change in demand is infinite, perfectly inelastic, demand where remains unchanged, right? Unitary elastic is rectangular hyperbola, right? Now friends, what are the determinants of elasticity of demand? So friends, these are some of the determinants which determines the elasticity of demand. First is the availability of substitutes. So if close substitutes are available for a product, then the demand for that product tends to be very elastic. If the price of the product increases, buyers will buy its substitute. Hence, fall in its demand will be very large. Hence, price elasticity will be larger. So what is saying that if the suppose the price is increasing, then buyer will buy its substitute, and the fall in demand will be very large. So price elasticity will be very large. For example, if we take example of salt, there is no close substitute available. Hence, even if price of salt increases, the fall in demand will be zero or less. Hence, salt price is inelastic. B is proportion of consumers' income spent. If a smaller proportion of consumer income is spent on particular commodity X, price elasticity of demand for X will be smaller. Take for example salt. People spend very small proportion of their income on salt, hence salt will have a small elasticity of demand or inelastic. Number of uses of commodity. If a commodity is used for greater number of purposes, its price elasticity will also be larger. For example, milk is used as this, hence even a small fall in price will tempt the consumer to use more milk, right? So if suppose milk is used, since milk is used for many purposes, right? So if there is a small downfall in the price of milk, then people will buy more milk, right? So its price elasticity will be larger. But complementary between goods. For example, along with the petrol, lubricating oil is also used for running automobiles. So hence here a rise in the price of lubricating oil may not reduce the demand of the lubricating oil. Means if along with the petrol, lubricating oil is also used for running automobiles, right? So rise in price of the lubricating oil will not reduce the demand for lubricating oil, right? Time. In the long run, the price elasticity of demand for many goods will be larger. This is so because in the long run, many substitutes can be discovered or invented. Therefore, the demand is generally more elastic in the long run than in the short run. Now, what we will understand what are the measure of elasticity of demand. First is percentage method. Delta Q upon delta P, right? This is that percentage change in demand or percentage change in price. Now, total outlay method. What is total outlay method? Marshall suggested that the simplest way to decide whether demand is elastic or inelastic is to examine the change in total outlay of the consumer or total revenue of the firm. Means total revenue is equal to price into quantity sold, right? So what Marshall suggested that whether demand is elastic or inelastic is to examine the change in total outlay of the consumer total revenue. So if we measure the change in the total revenue, we can find the elasticity of demand. When there is inverse relation between price and total outlay, demand is elastic. Direct relation means inelastic. Elasticity is unity when total outlay is constant. So if we can say from total outlay, price is 150, quantity demand is 3, total outlay is 450, right? Now 150 from total demand is total outlay become 500. Now elasticity, since it is total outlay is increasing, so elasticity is greater than 1. Here total outlay is constant, elasticity is equal to 1. Total outlay decreasing, elasticity is less than 1. Now point of geometric elasticity. When the demand curve is a straight line, it is said to be linear. Graphically, the point elasticity of a linear demand curve is shown by the ratio of the segment of the line to the right and to the left of that particular point. So so we can see this is a demand curve, and it is linear with increase in price. Quantity demand is it is shown in this graph. So what it is saying, geographically the point elasticity of a linear demand curve is shown by the ratio of the segment of the line to the right and to the left of the particular point. So we can see at this point ep is 1, at this point ep is greater than 1, right, and at lower point ep is less than 1. So now their next heading, importance of the elasticity of demand. Now friends, we will understand what are the importance of this elasticity that we are understanding for so long. First is price fixation. If the demand of the product is inelastic, he can fix a higher price. Means what is inelastic? That the price with increase in price, demand is remaining constant. So what will producer do? That he will fix the higher price. Production generally decides the producer level decides the production level on the basis of demand of the product. Elasticity of demand also help in determination of rewards for factor of production. International trade. Term of trade depends upon elasticity of demand for the goods of the two countries. Public finance. Elasticity of demand helps the government in formulating tax policies. Nationalization. The concept of elasticity of demands enables the government to decide over nationalization of industries. So, friends, these are some of the importance of the elasticity of demand. Now, friends, another topic is ordinary analysis, ordinary utility approach. We will understand what is scale of preference. This theory is also based on scale of preference. A rational consumer usually prefers the combination of goods which gives him maximum level of satisfaction. Thus, the consumer can arrange goods and their combination in order of their satisfaction. So, such an arrangement of combination of goods in the order of level of satisfaction is called the scale of preference. Right? Let's understand it with the help of an example. An indifference schedule may be defined as a schedule of various combination of two commodities which will give the same level of satisfaction. In other words, indifference schedule is a table which shows the different combination of two goods that give equal satisfaction to the consumer. So friends, this is the indifference schedule. So suppose 1 apple and 20 orange will give same level of satisfaction to the consumer as 2 apple and 15 orange, and which will be equal to 3 apple and 4 orange. So each of these combination give the consumer the same level of satisfaction without discrimination. So these are also called as indifference schedule. And what is scale of preference? That rational consumer, it prefers these combinations, so he gets the maximum level of satisfaction, right? So such an arrangement of combination of goods in the order of level of satisfaction is called scale of preference, right? Now friends, let's understand this indifference curve. What is this indifference curve? So different combination of two commodities can be presented in a diagram. The consumer get different points, and when such points are connected, a curve is obtained. This curve is called indifference curve. So this curve basically shows that the different point of orange and apple, which if we point and at the same level of satisfaction that the consumer is getting, and we plot all these points and join, then we will get this curve, which is called as indifference curve. And so what is indifference curve? It is basically a locus of all combination of commodities from which the consumer derives the same level of satisfaction. It is also called as also utility curve or equal satisfaction curve. An indifference map is a family of collection of set of indifferences curve corresponding to different level of satisfaction. Okay, friends. Now, friends, upper IC representing high levels of satisfaction compared to lower IC means what it's saying, that this, if IC3 means more level of satisfaction than IC1, right? Now, marginal rate of substitution. Friends, now what is marginal rate of substitution? The marginal rate of substitution of X for Y is defined as the maximum amount of Y the consumer is willing to give up for getting additional unit of X and still being the same in the same difference curve. Means, friends, suppose a consumer want to give up some orange, So what to for the same to get same level of satisfaction, he have to buy some level some amount of apple. So this additional amount, it is called as marginal rate of substitution, right friend? Now diminishing marginal rate of substitution, what is this is diminishing. It explains the concept of diminishing marginal rate of substitution, which is delta y upon f delta x. However, with price elasticity of demand, the convention is to ignore the minus sign. Now the properties of this indifference curves. What are these property of this curve? Indifference curve must have negative slope. Indifference curve has a negative slope, which known as with the quantity of commodity y decreases, the quantity of other x must increase if the consumer is to stay on same level of satisfaction. Means the slope should be negative, right? Indifference curves are convex to the origin. These curves are convex to the origin. So friends, indifference curves are not only negatively sloped but are also convex to the origin. The convexity of the indifference curve implies that not only two commodities are substitute for each other, but also the fact that marginal rate of substitution between goods decreases as a consumer moves along an indifference curve, right? Indifference curves cannot intersect. So IC1 is lower indifference curve denoting lesser satisfaction, IC2 upper satisfaction. So since IC2 is upper satisfaction, IC1, so these curves cannot intersect, and these curves do not cannot touch horizontal or vertical axis. Now friends, let's understand what is price line or budget line. The demand for good depend upon preference for that good and purchasing power. So the purchasing power depend on his money income and the price of good. So purchasing power of anything, what will depend on the money income of the consumer, on the consumer who is buying, and the price of the good. The money income and price level are represented by budget line. So the budget line is downward sloping straight line connecting x axis and y axis. OA OA is OA here is refers as income, and OB is the price of X good, right? The budget line is a line joining various combination of two goods which the consumer can buy at a given price and get given income. So what is this budget line? So the budget line is the line joining various combination of two goods that the consumer can buy at given price and income. So this is the budget line, and for what is the budget line is showing that with various combination of commodity and x and y that consumer can buy at given price and given income, right? Now friends, let's understand the consumer equilibrium. The consumer reaches equilibrium at a point where the budget line is tangent on the indifference curve. So at this point you can see t point, this budget line is tangent. So this point is called as consumer equilibrium. So at equilibrium point, the slope of IC refers to MRXY and the slope of VR refers to ratio price of X to the price of Y. Therefore, MRXY is PX upon PY, right? So this is basically consumer equilibrium where budget line is tangent to the indifference curve. So friends, we have understood this chapter. I hope you have got the crux of this chapter. It is basically the easy chapter, not very difficult chapter. So please friends, subscribe this channel. Your subscription gives me the motivation to make further videos. So friends, we will meet in the next video. So keep rocking. Bye.